Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 yeah, go, go, go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my grave. To the system, I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way, or the highway. And in the driveway is a nice range. Cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and obtain anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the key ingredient, it's belief. They deceive with the negativity, but I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, go.
We are the nation of domination.
Welcome to another edition of Bird Gang Nation Sports Talk. I'm your host, Bird Gang 31. Today, Nation, we bring a very special guest back on the platform. It's Philadelphia Eagles' own Mr. Chris McPherson. How you doing today, my guy?
BG, it's been a while, my man. Seriously. So I guess it's a good thing you have me coming on. It's a playoff showdown. I would think that if something were to go this way, you wouldn't be having me on. And certainly we'd be talking about much different topics, but looking forward to breaking this one down. I mean, Eagles, Giants, you could have asked for a better situation for the Eagles coming off the bye week, BG. Saturday night, prime time at Lincoln Financial Field. The fans have all day to tailgate party, get revved up for this one. Woo! It is going to be a beautiful sight to see. I'm already dreaming of the fans, just the link packed, the midnight green rally towels will be waving. If you're watching on TV, that opening scene where they just pan the link is going to be sensational. Oh, it is going to be absolutely electric. The weather's supposed to be good. The vibe's going to be outstanding. I just think fans, BG, they've been waiting for this for like weeks because the Eagles get out to a 13-1 start, and you say to yourself, all right, they need one win in 3 weeks, and they got business taken care of. They'll have the 1 seed. Let's just finish this thing off, get the 1 seed, and let's get to find out who we're going to play. So I think fans have been, champing at the bit for a while to get this one, and the fact that it's a division rival coming here for, it's a third matchup of the year is going to be outstanding, BG. So can't wait to break it all down.
Yeah, I think we talked. We were 6-0 last time. I think it was 6-0. But I was telling you about this team, Chris. I tell you about this team. I tell you about first being the MVP. If it wasn't for that injury, I would have been right on that one. I feel like I would have been right on that one. He's played a phenomenal season. The Eagles as a whole, best record, we've ever had in the regular season with 14 wins. It's one special year to be an Eagles fan, and I'm definitely excited about this week's game. Even though it's against a division foe, man. Like, tell me, before we get into the breakdown, like, how did you see the end of this season? Like, were you satisfied with it? Were you more than satisfied with it? How was that, on your end? How do you feel about the season as a whole?
If you were to tell me at the beginning of the year that the Philadelphia Eagles would be the number one seed, 14 wins. Okay, like you said, most in franchise history, that Jalen Hurts would be an MVP candidate. That it's like everything that you said, okay, if everything goes right for the team, if Nick Sirianni improves in his second year, if Jalen Hurts takes the next step, if the offensive line doesn't have any major injuries, if A.J. Brown comes in and is a reliable wide receiver one, all this stuff happens. Okay, maybe you say to yourself, okay, maybe they win 11, 12 games or so, and they'll be in the mix for a division title. To basically, be the top dog all season long, to have the best start in franchise history, to be 13-1 at one point. Jalen Hurts being 14-1 is 14-1. This isn't Alabama. This isn't Oklahoma. Beating up on
it is now, baby.
This is the NFL. To be 14-1, to win 14 games in a season is incredible. So it's just been surreal to watch this unfold. I'm so happy for the success that Jalen Hurts has had because he's that dude. Okay, he's the guy that puts in the work behind the scenes. He's maximized his talent to where it is now. I just remember thinking back to training camp and what this team could be, and seeing everything unfold and to where it's at now. It's been a dream. It's like one of those things where, again, if you ask any Eagles fan for this situation, for this scenario, no question they would have taken it. No question they would have been all over it. So now we just get to the best part, is that the fact that the Eagles are home, and we get to hopefully see, a nice, long, lengthy postseason run. But it all starts Saturday night at the Link against the Giants. I mean, this is the type of game that the Eagles win, and Eagles fans get to talk smack on the Giants.
Yeah.
Next year. That's the best part. That's the best part about this. So, and I'm sure Giants fans would have excuses and whatnot, but I just can't wait to get things revved up here on Saturday night. I think fans, again, have just been waiting. This anticipation has been building up because everyone said, all right, they're going to win the division. They're going to get the 1 seed. Let's find out who they're going to play, and let's get ready to rock and roll. I just feel like that this has been built up for almost a month to get to this point. It's finally here, just a few days away.
Do you feel like it's that much more special, knowing that we won a division? You know how this division switches every year. Who's the division champ? The fact that we won the division in a year that the NFC East is the best division in football. Like, we still got 3 teams in the playoffs. 3 out of 4 remaining teams are in the playoffs, man. Does that make it a special? For me, it was a little bit more special to be division champions the year that we're all playing good. You know what I'm saying? We could have 4. Washington choke it out and maybe start fighting. Maybe they would have Heineke in the game. They could have made it, but we could have 4. I think that, to me, that makes it a little bit more special, because it's easy to win a division when the rest of your teams aren't playing very good. You know what I'm saying? Like, you won a division that year, like the Tampa Bay this year, won with 8 wins. You know what I'm saying? Just made it to the playoffs because the whole division is doing crappy, playing crappy. But the fact that we still got 3 teams in there, I feel like it's a little bit more special to be division champs this year.
Even BG, I hadn't thought about it that way. I think that's a phenomenal point, but it's even sweeter because of the fact that no one expected the division to be good going into the season. This division. It was not, you could almost say it was like the laughing stock. The fact that the Eagles, made the playoff, stumbled their way into the playoffs last season. It was a lot of people just did not look at this as being, a strong division throughout. And you can understand why, because, okay, you have Dallas was pretty much the top dog going into the offseason, winning the division. Then you had, Washington was stumbling. New York was going through a coaching change. The Eagles made the playoffs, but, you didn't know what Jalen Hurts would be in his 3rd season, his 2nd as a starter. So for the fact that the division, I think as a whole, played much better than expectations was outstanding. But the fact, to your point, BG, that the Eagles were the top dog in that division when the rest of the East was good. Because that hasn't, to be honest, BG, for as much as the Eagles have won since going back to like the Andy Reid era, how many years was the NFC East really all that good from top to bottom while the Eagles were winning? It wasn't all that often, and it seemed like if another, the years that the Eagles weren't, on top, It was the year that the Giants, won, got to the Super Bowl. The Cowboys had the one year, I think 2009, where they won a division. But I mean, that's a tremendous point when you think about it. That makes it that much more special. So that they got to go out and if they go out and they got to go out and take care of business on Saturday night. As good as the regular season was, okay, Eagles fans aren't going to be thinking that way if they don't, get the win this Saturday against the Giants. So I mean, it's going to be a hard fought game. It's going to be a tough game. It's a division showdown. It's hard to beat a team 3 times. All that stuff.
That was my next one. That was my next one because people say that they're worried about the 3-time rule, but you see in San Francisco just do it. You know what I'm saying, against Seattle. And I feel like it's not if you got 2 equally matched teams and they're playing each other 3 times in a row. Now that's when you look at, okay, well, it'd be hard to beat this team. They're kind of equally, you guys had 2 close games in the season, but you pulled them both off, going into the playoffs, equally matched teams. Then you might have to watch out because that team that lost the first 2 could come out and win, I even thought Seattle could have came with an upset this last weekend, but they didn't, But how do you feel about that? Because I feel like the Eagles team is that much better. Like, for me, the 3 losses came by us. It was 3 self-inflicted losses as opposed to 3 teams being better than us and came and beat us on that Sunday. You know what I'm saying? Like we still won all of them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I go back and forth. I mean, the Eagles just didn't play their best football those games. Against Washington, it's way too many turnovers. Against Dallas, defense just didn't have its best effort. And then, the Saints was just probably is overall just the Eagles, worst performance of the season. I have a hard time doing the whole thing about like, oh, they just beat themselves. I think most teams probably would say it to an extent. Well, like the only team that could beat us is us. And look, that's true to an extent, but I think the Eagles have being the top dog in a tough division all season long. You're basically they lost the rematches except for the Saints. Okay, they lost the second time to the Commanders. They lost the second time to the Cowboys. Okay, again, it's tough to win sweeps against these division rivals. So, but going into this one, it's interesting because everyone will say, well, week 14 the Eagles dusted them, they blasted them, they blew them out. It was not a contest. All right, look. The Eagles were missing some pieces that week. Dallas Goedert didn't play that game. The Giants were missing a lot. And I think the Giants at that point were in survival mode. They knew the next week they had a big division matchup against the Commanders. And I think they kind of said to themselves, we ain't winning this game against the Eagles. Okay. They came out red hot. Jalen was phenomenal. We brought the blitz. We couldn't stop them. It ain't going to be our day. We need to get ready for next week against Commanders. We need to win that game, and we need to keep our season rolling here. You look at Week 18, you can't take anything from that because I think both sides. The Eagles they're trying to get Jalen Hurts reacclimated, coming off the injury. They're trying to do the least they can, to show their cards, but get the home field advantage. They were like, we just need to come out here with a win and no major injuries. We accomplished that. We're good. We're set. Okay. And the Giants didn't have anything to play for, so they're not playing their stars. So you can't really take anything from that. So it's a unique third game where it's like, okay, it's tough to beat a team 3 times. Well, you're almost getting different teams in each instance, and certainly the much different teams and schemes from what we saw a couple weeks ago. Even though they're playing for basically the second time in 3 weeks, it's going to be much different teams going out here this Saturday night.
Facts. Even like me, like that's just my personal. How I'm a super fan. Where I feel like Jalen plays the Dallas game and win. Even if Maddox continued to play that Dallas game, I feel like we would have won that game.
Probably, yeah. No, and that's why he's the MVP. The guy's 14-1 as a starter. Like that, that's what he brings to the table. Look, Minshew balled out in that game against Dallas. Okay,
no.
The Dallas game. Yes,
no.
he did.
No.
Yes, he did.
I think it was the players. It wasn't Minshew. He was still throwing ducks. I thought, that's just my personal opinion. I feel like he did the same thing.
You get 27 points, 34 total.
Right? Did you think he had a good game against the Jets last year?
Yes.
See, and I didn't think it was.
He ran the offense. He ran the offense. He did what he had to do to get done. That's what you're looking for. No, he ran the
Four
offense
turnovers in the Dallas game.
in the Dallas game.
Yeah.
Or are you talking about the Saints game?
Saints game, four turnovers, Saints game. But he also he had turnovers in the Dallas game too, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean he put him in position to win. So
Yeah.
I mean,
I like you, Chris.
BG, we got playoff game.
You're not getting no bulletin board material for Chris, baby. He's gonna keep it real with you. I like it. But like for me, it's like you see the difference. You see the swag. You see the team play, the overall team play when Jalen Hurts is playing compared to if Minshew's playing or if anybody else coming. At best, the difference. Back to the point is Michael Parsons saying it's the team or the system. You know, it's a little bit of both, but you really start to feel and see that without Jalen Hurts, this is a totally different team because you still have the weapons, you still have the defense, but the team did not look the same without a quarterback leading.
Oh, and it's funny because even in Week 18, when you had Jalen without the rushing ability, it's a totally different. Now again, they're not showing anything. They're not, all stuff like that, but they're trying to keep it vanilla because I think probably both sides to an extent. Obviously, the Giants had to go take care of business in the wild card round, but I think the Eagles probably figured there's a good chance we may see this team, in a couple of weeks. That's why do you think all the coaches are sitting in the office on that Saturday, having their pizza party and trying to figure out what we're going to do there? So, seriously.
Do you think it's an advantage for us, though? If you really think about this, right? So the Giants going to prep this week. You really got to go back 4 games for real. If you really want to think about it, before you actually got like the real Eagles team, quote unquote, like the real team that was out there playing at a high level. Because you can't really look at the Dallas game because that was Minshew led. You can't really look at the Saints game because that was Minshew led. You can't really look at your last game in Week 18 because it was your backups and it was Jalen Hurts playing like super protective ball over there. You know what I'm saying? So. How do you think that's an advantage or a disadvantage going into a game like this in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the Giants are well aware of what Jalen can do. The Giants, forced Jalen into, you go back to the 2021 season at MetLife, it was arguably his worst game as a pro. Okay. And there's the scene of at the end of the game when they almost still pulled it out. Okay. Jalen Hurts had a couple of opportunities late in the game to get the ball deep and just weren't able to execute. And there's that photo of Jordan Mailata consoling Jalen Hurts because he knew how close they were. So the Giants certainly can wreak havoc. But the fact of the matter is, I think we're all waiting to see what is the full Jalen Hurts experience going to be like once again. The fact that he's not in the injury report is the best news for this football team, because if he was limited, if he was questionable, not that he would be questionable for the game, but if there were any concerns, or even if he was like a full participant, you'd be saying to yourself, is he going to be 100%? Are we going to get the full Jalen Hurts? Is he going to be able to run? Is he going to trust the shoulder? Is he going to be willing to put himself out there? The dude's a warrior. There's no question in my mind that he will, but you just feel that much more going into this game knowing that, okay, he's not even on the injury report, man, we're going to get, 100% Jalen Hurts. We're not going to get, like you said, the super conservative version, who was sliding and evading runs, and just the whole game plan will just have a whole different look and feel with him being back to 100% for this showdown on Saturday night. But again, it was a month today to the day that he got injured in Chicago. It's been a full month since he was, fully himself out there. So it's just the fact that that's why it was so important to get the bye, so that Jalen could have that week of rest to be able to get himself to a point where he can be, he could be 100% for this game.
What he says, PGM Facebook. Yeah, I'm blocking your name. Let's see who you are and going to do you like that. What do you mean? I'm just going through the comments, letting them go. You know what I'm saying? We got Chris here for a short period of time, so I got to get my questions there. But I'll definitely get to some of you guys' questions out there. Back to that though, Chris. Do you think Jalen's 100%, or do you think it's like me? Like I feel like everybody that with an injury on this team, it's playoff time. It's time to go. You know what I'm saying? It's time to go. You got 3 games for your season, so anything else you can put on after the season. Go get your surgeries after the season. Go take your time off, get your rest after the season. There's enough modern day medicine to get you going for 3 games. Like, how do you feel? How bad do you think this is? Do you think it's really as bad as they try to make it seem? You seen Nick come out and be like, he was in a lot of pain. You know what I'm saying? Like, but he's a warrior. You heard Jalen's like, I played through injuries before. Like it ain't no big deal. Like, how serious do you think the shoulder injury is?
I mean, it's a rough sport. I mean, the human body was like, not designed for full-on collisions with helmets and pads and the whole nine, time after time again. All these guys, pretty much the only time that you're going to be truly 100% is the first day of training camp. And then once you get the pads on and get it going, it's, you're just trying to survive week in and week out. And, I think the guys in the locker room know, and this goes back to what happened after the Giants game. The day after, Coach Sirianni wanted to give the whole building the day off, wanted all the coaches, personnel people, just, hey, celebrate. We accomplished, a huge goal of ours at the beginning of the season to win the division, to be the 1 seed. Let's take a day to just kind of, rest and recharge. And Jalen's like, hell no, like, I'm coming to watch film. Like, we're 3 wins away from immortality. We're 3 wins away from being recognized as world champions. We're 3 wins away from a parade down Broad Street, from a million people partying it up. I mean, we all know what happened in 2017, the 2017 season when the Eagles were able to finally bring the Lombardi Trophy home. Jalen, never was able to get it all the way as like the guy in college. He certainly obviously was part of that national championship team in Alabama, was a starter the whole nine, but you want to be the guy that's getting to hoist the trophy and to get all the accolades with it. He understands that, guys, this is what you play and practice and train all year for. There's you get 17 games now in the regular season, you get your couple preseason games, you get playoff games hopefully, but it's like, okay, all total maybe you're playing 23 games in a year, 23 days. There's a whole other 320, 330 days or whatever where it's workouts, it's training, it's practices, it's film study, it's all this minutia, to get to this point. The Eagles realize we're one of the 8 teams left. Okay, we had the first round bye. We've got home field. They've got to come through Philadelphia. This, again, all the years I've been with the organization full time since 2004. They were the 1 seed in 2004. They were the 1 seed in 2017. This doesn't happen every year. They've made the playoffs frequently. They've won division titles, but to be the number 1 team with the home field advantage, the bye, all that stuff, that doesn't come around every year. It is a huge opportunity, and Jalen knows it and wants to capitalize on it. He's not taking the foot off the gas pedal right now.
Gut feeling, those 2 teams you just named, 2004, 2017, and this 22 Eagles. Who do you think is more talented?
Oh, let's see. I mean, obviously you're going to look at the 17 team that won. I would say this season's team probably has the better secondary, okay? Because when you look at Slay, you look at James Bradbury, you've got basically 2 guys who played at an all-pro level, locking it down all year. Max is an outstanding starter. You had Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, CJ working the back end, coming in there. The defensive line on this 2022 team compared to the 17 squad, Fletcher was like all world. Okay, it was all world Fletcher Cox in 2017. You had BG, but you got Reddick coming off the edge. You've got Hargrave working the middle there. The offensive lines are pretty. The fact that you look at the offensive lines, it's funny because it's almost like the same guys, just about. Yeah. You still got Lane Johnson, you still got Kelsey, Samala on both teams. The 20. I mean, you have the thing is, you have AJ Brown, who was like the TO of the 2014. Donovan was the MVP of the league in 2004. He doesn't get enough credit for what he did in that era with those teams. So
didn't forget that Donnie was MVP because I forgot for a little while.
He didn't win. He didn't win MVP, but he was I mean, he was basically right in that conversation. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
he was right. He was right there at the top. I mean, he was probably through like week 13. He probably was the front runner, and then they took. They were able to rest guys. He had a couple like so games. It was kind of like okay, he didn't get it back then, but all in some ways similar to what we've seen with Jalen Hurts, where so close, probably the number one guy for most of the year, but look, this 2022 team, going through the roster, they're matching up with everyone. Okay, so talent-wise, that's not the question. This is a deep team all across the board. Okay, and again, it goes back to you put yourself in the position. Okay, the 2017 team, they had the chemistry, they had the magic. That was a team of destiny. Things came together for them. It was a magical run. You've pretty much done everything you can to put this team in position to have this kind of run. They've just got to go capitalize on it now. So again, it goes back to two wins, and they're going to have a chance to play for the Lombardi Trophy. But again, it's a tough road because you may talk about how special it was to win a hard-fought NFC East. You may have to beat two NFC East teams to be able to.
That's what you're saying right here. He's not rooting for Dallas, but he hopes they win because that means the Eagles will go against Giants. Then they go against.
That's a dream. You ask a fan.
If we both in the best, we're the best division of football. That would be epic. That would be epic.
Can you? I mean, all the other NFC East fans are just going to say that Birds fans will be insufferable for the next calendar year because it's not only you won the division, it's this is the game. These are the bragging rights games. Okay, it really doesn't matter what happened in the regular season. Okay, these are the games that matter, and if you could say that you knocked them out, on the way to go into the Super Bowl, again, it's just like how 2017. Was this fairy tale ending, and it was, just a phenomenal ride because Eagles fans hadn't been on a Super Bowl ride, before getting all the way to the top. It's just going to be sensational the way that you get to do it. It goes back to 2017. Okay, if you had beaten the Jaguars to win the Super Bowl, it would have, trust me, we would have been partying. It would have been phenomenal. But to beat Tom Brady and the Patriots to do it, a little extra special, a little more special. That goes back to your point, BG, from the top that, okay, it's great to win a division, but you want it when 3 of the final 4 teams in the NFC remaining are all NFC East teams and 2 of your bitter rivals.
Another kudos to the NFC and even to the Eagles as a whole. Like, look at all these teams that made the playoffs this year. Look how many former Eagle coaches and personnel run these teams. You know what I'm saying? You go to the Ravens, you got John Harbaugh. You go to even the Giants, they got Mike Kafka. Is that name Mike Kafka?
Yeah, Mike Kafka, yep.
You know what I'm saying? You got the Kansas City with Andy Reid. You got, Dougie P over there doing his thing with the Jacks. Like, that shows how stable and how much of an awesome organization it is when you can just go through, like, all your playoff teams right now. The Buffalo Bills, McDermott. He was with the Eagles. Like, all these guys are former Eagle coaches and personnel, and now they're leading their teams to, the playoffs.
I mean, BG, if the Harbaugh and the Ravens had won, if they had gotten that Hail Mary to come through the other night, it could be all 4 AFC teams are from the Andy Reid coaching tree. That's how close it was. I mean, it's a phenomenal point.
Oh, yeah, Bengals too, right?
No, Bengals don't have a tie. That's the Sean McVay tree.
Yeah, what's his name?
Press is with Doug in Jacksonville. It's his brother.
With the Bengals, right? Or his brother was with the Bengals. One or two.
Brother is the Bengals coach. Yeah. So, but not nonetheless though. I mean, it's a tribute to look. Jeffrey Lurie has run this organization outstanding through the last through the 25 plus years that he's overseen the team as chairman and CEO, from just building phenomenal facilities, from going from Veteran Stadium to having a state-of-the-art training center in the NovaCare complex and a top-tier outdoor stadium in Lincoln Financial Field, to providing stability from the coaching positions, that every coach that he's hired has won the division and won double-digit games within their first couple seasons. Every single guy he's hired, so he knows, when you have teams that are going through coaches in a season and teams that are going through several coaches, like the Giants, it seems like they finally got it right with Dable, but between Tom Coughlin and Brian Dable, they couldn't find their way. They couldn't get a guy, to be a program builder, and the Eagles aren't just taking the hot name out there. Nick Sirianni was the guy that was the unknown, going through the coaching process where, people knew of him and, he did some great things with Indianapolis' offense, but he wasn't the hot name on the market. Okay. Doug Pearson wasn't the hot name on the market. Chip Kelly was. Chip Kelly was like the guy. He was the big fish when they hired him. But the last couple hires, have been guys that, it goes back to Andy Reid. Andy Reid was not a coordinator. He was a quarterback's coach, okay? To make that leap and to realize that, it's not just who has the best, schemes and game plans. It's like, okay, yeah, we could take the guy who runs the best offense or defense. That doesn't mean that it's going to translate into being a top-tier head coach. There's so much more that goes into it. And I think that's the biggest problem is teams say to themselves, all right, well, this guy had this great offense. We need a great offense. Let's hire him. All right, maybe it'll work, but there's so much more that goes into being a head coach than just the X's and O's that, quite honestly, when you become the head coach, you almost get so far removed at times from the X's and O's that it's all the other leadership capabilities and the ability to be essentially a CEO in your own right. That that provides a difference between the good teams and the great teams, on a year in and year out basis. Because the other thing is, okay, you can have a good season, but can you build a team that can make it to the playoffs like the Eagles, with a 1-year hiatus? So go from 17, 18, 19, take 20 off, you're back in 21 and 22, with a new head coach and a new quarterback. Like, not every team can do that. I mean, Eagles fans, look, they deserve the best product there is, no question. But there are teams, when you think about that, are dying, like the Lions, that are dying just to have a playoff appearance. Okay. And for the Eagles, it's, it's all right. It's what's expected. And that's not, it's a standard. It's all about this. BJ, you're dead on. It's all about the standard and what's been set by Jeffrey Lurie that, like he said, his challenge to the coaches, he said this, I don't know if you saw the locker room speech after they beat the Giants, but he goes to the locker room, he has the game ball, and he said, before the season, I challenged the coaches saying our goal is to win the division and get the number 1 seed. And he said, Nick Sirianni didn't blink an eye. You might, and we're all saying now they're 14-3. They did it. At that time, we weren't sure how good this team was going to be. We didn't know what Jalen Hurts was going to become.
Oh, yeah, I did, Chris. I told you about it. I did. Reid, right? In the Reid era, right? He finally really, Reid won a lot of games with us. You know what I'm saying? Like, we won a lot of football games with Andy Reid. But you see when he went to KC, he gave over, the play calling duties, to Bieniemy. You know what I'm saying? Nick Sirianni in his second year did that with Shane Steichen. Do you think that was a plus? And how much credit do you give Nick?
First year. Say it wasn't. It was
the first year. I mean, like full year. This is second year, so it's like all this year. He gave that over. And I knew it was at the end. And he came out and said it was the end of last year where he started really giving it up. Like, how big of a move was that for Nick?
Huge, because I think you realize, okay, you can't be as involved. And it goes back to my whole thing about, okay, are you hiring a guy who has a great offense? Is that all he's going to be? And you're not going to be worried about the defense, special teams. I think Nick realized, hey, there is too much on my plate. Okay, I have a great coaching staff. Let them do their jobs, and let me be able to manage what's going on with the defense, what's happening with the referees, be aware of game situations. I mean, one of the biggest things that we can't wait to watch is going to be the coaching battle between, and look, Brian Dable gave up. He doesn't call plays either. Brian Dable easily could have been like, I'm coming in and I'm calling plays. No, he gave up those responsibilities as well because I think they realized how tough the job is. And that makes you wonder when you see guys like Mike McDaniel in Miami, when tight game, playoffs, you have your third string quarterback, you're trying to upset the Bills on the road, and you're struggling to get the play calls in on time. It's like, all right, is that a symptom of, okay, is there too much, that's beyond his play? Is that just because he's going through it for the first time? I think the whole last year, Nick was pulling this team from 2-5, that 2-5 start, and everyone was riding him for his flowers, his plant comment,
Yeah.
and he was just trying to get and he was just trying to get the program built and trying to get the program going in the right direction. Okay, so they have the underdog, the dog mentality, and they're able to climb back their way. They make the playoffs. Year 2, they're the team. They are the top dog. Everyone is gunning for them. Everyone knows that it's going to be, this is the team with the bullseye on their back, and it's been that way through the course of the season. They were the last team to be undefeated. Everyone was looking at them. One in the power rankings, they were getting every team's best shot. Teams, like the Chicago Bears may say, we ain't going to make the playoffs, but we're going to try to make hell for the Philadelphia Eagles. This is our chance to make some noise. So
we did a lot of special things this year, Chris. I want you to capture some of these photos real fast. I know we got to get you out of here soon, but I want you to capture some of these. Like, let me know when you see this. Like, what does that make you feel, knowing that these players are probably going to be with the Eagles for years to come, and what the Eagles fan can expect, not only for the playoffs but for years to come. Like the Mike Quick record with AJ Brown. Like, what do you see? When you see that, like he done broke a record, in his first year starting. Like, how special is this guy?
The thing about AJ that's so impressive is the physicality that he brings to the field, and the fact that I think he's still only like 25. He's still very young. He is in the Eagles. Got a guy who's one of the best, already at Pro Bowl level, already proven, already productive, and what I think helped both AJ and both the Eagles. Okay, you had the relationship with Jalen. These are guys who were best friends off the field. They met on the recruiting trip, back in college, and they've had that bond for several years. I mean, that's something I think was really important, was for the Eagles to give, Jalen. And this is similar. You can go back to when you're going back from the 2016 Eagles, the Carson Wentz first season, to year 2. It was like, all right, we have a talented quarterback. How are we going to make him better? How we say we got to give him weapons, okay? And they got an Alshon Jeffrey. They got a Torrey Smith. And all of a sudden, look at that. All of a sudden, they're a Super Bowl team. I think the Eagles realized that, okay, they started with Devontae Smith. They have Dallas Goedert in place, but they needed that alpha dog, to come in and to be able to just round out the offense. Because otherwise, you look at the offense, it's the same as last season.
Fact.
Literally, every starter is back, except you added in AJ Brown, a top tier
A lot of
talent.
people say that too. A lot of people say, "Oh, they got so much better on offense." I'd be like, "What are you talking about? We only added one person."
Yeah, but you also have Jalen Hurts. Credit to him, taking the next step. This is not the same Jalen Hurts that we saw as a passer last season. And Jalen Hurts, we saw him being able as a passer, being in the same offense for the second year in a row, seeing the field so much better, being able to make the quick decisions, leveraging all aspects of the field, knowing when to throw it up to his guy. I mean, just some of those contested catches that both he and Devontae Smith made all season long were just ridiculous. And it was getting to the point, and BJ would get to the point where, like, Jalen would air it out deep down the sideline, and you were shocked if they didn't catch it. You're like, he didn't come up with it. He was out of bounds or whatever that time. So, it was
I know you like to say, like everybody likes to say, like, AJ's so elite, but if you look at some of the balls, Jalen, it was just like, what? Like, how'd you throw it right there? Like, I remember a catch where he literally threw it like at the back of the guy's helmet. AJ was like right there to catch it. And touchdown.
It was the Steelers game.
Late hands. I love the late hands with AJ. You don't show that he about to catch the ball to the last second. And like some of them balls, like they were dimes, like straight dimes where, Jalen.
I'm thinking of the Titans game. I'm thinking of the Titans game where literally the guy is draped on him and AJ just puts out his hand and it's just like, boom,
Yeah.
Like just sticks his hand out and it falls. Couldn't be anywhere perfect. Just couldn't be anywhere perfect. So
here.
But the fact that that he's going to be here for years to come is it's just one of those guys who there was a love affair from him from the jump, because he was the type of guy that the Eagles needed to get. The fans wanted to see here. He wanted to be here. I remember when he came for his pre-draft visit. He visited the Eagles in the pre-draft process during his draft year. So, it was certainly someone the Eagles had an eye on. And the fact that he came from an offense that was very run-centric, I think helped, because it's like, okay, this is, obviously the Eagles are trying to develop and grow the passing game, but AJ wasn't a guy that's like, if he doesn't get the ball 11 times, if he doesn't have 10 targets per game, things are going to go south with him. No, he can maximize the efficiency if he's going to get 4 or 5 targets, but he's going to catch those and go for 60 and a touchdown or what have you.
And even that, like knowing the fact that he's a blocking receiver too, like he lays some good blocks out there. You know what I'm saying? He's used to blocking. And Derrick Henry got so many carries every year, over 300 plus every year, that he knew that he had to come out there and be physical at that position as a blocking running back. That's another reason why you see Miles Sanders out there with 1,300 yards, one of his best seasons too. So what about this one? The sack record, 70 sacks with these guys.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it starts with number 7, Hassan Reddick. I mean, this was a team that had 29 sacks last season, the 41 sack differential, best in NFL history. And the Eagles, I think it's look in the mirror and realizing what is the area we've got to improve upon. Okay, this is a team that goes back to the Andy Reid, the Jim Johnson days. It's known for its pass rush, and Howard Roseman understands you got to win in the trenches. You got to find ways to affect the quarterback, and Eagles just did not do that enough, to play the style of defense that Jonathan Gannon wants to play. If Jonathan Gannon wants to play, we're going to play too high, or we're going to play soft coverages, and we're going to keep things in front of us. You need a pass rush to be able to make it happen, or you're going to have situations like last season when teams were completing 80% of their pass attempts and being able to successfully have 12, 13 play drives consistently time and time again. You need to find ways to speed up the quarterback, to get him thinking that he's got to get rid of the ball or he's going to take some punishment. And Hassan Reddick led the way, 16 sacks, many times was the first guy in there disrupting things for everyone else. But it wasn't just him. It's Brandon Graham, who, he probably won't win comeback player of the year, but for a guy to be 34, tear his Achilles, come back, and have a career high first time he gets to double-digit sacks, 11 sacks, just, phenomenal additional chapter to his career. Josh Sweat taking the next step after getting his big contract last year. Javon Hargrave, it's insane. It's insane to have this kind of pass rush production. So, but
Do you think
something
he got snubbed this year?
What's that?
Do you think Hargrave got snubbed from all
Yeah,
pro?
I mean, yeah, it's.
Pro Bowl. Was he a Pro Bowl? He's a Pro Bowl.
No,
He wasn't Pro
he
Bowl?
didn't get either.
Yeah, that's crazy. How you be the number 1 DT in sacks and you don't get Pro Bowl or All Pro?
It goes back to, I don't know if you saw the videos on our social media channels, but, Coach Sirianni announced to the team the Pro Bowl selections, and, he did the alternates. He rounds out the list of guys, the 8 guys who were Pro Bowl selections, and then he does the alternates. And Hargrave is an alternate. He might be the first alternate, but he gets to Hargrave, and he even says, how the hell is he not in the Pro Bowl? It's like, come on, especially lineman positions, offensive, defensive. Usually once you get in, because Hargrave was a Pro Bowler the previous year, once you're in, it's like as long as your name is still out there, you kind of almost will get in on a yearly basis based on your name. I don't know what the deal was there, but he's just a disruptive force. It's been great because that they have been able to play at such a high level that you haven't had to rely on Jordan Davis. You were wondering, Jordan Davis, first round pick. It's like he's been able to learn and grow and develop in the scheme. I know he had the ankle injury he had to deal with for some time, but you didn't have to put everything on him. That you had the veterans. This is going back to like the Lito and Sheldon Brown days, where you had Troy Vincent and Al Harris and Bobby Taylor, and you could allow the young guys to grow up, develop, and then when they're ready to take their turn, it's their time to shine. So, but one thing I wanted to say though with the pass rush is, speaking of the guys in the secondary, it's them too. Okay, the pass rush has been sensational, but if you don't have James Bradbury, if you don't have C.J. Gardner-Johnson, if you don't have Big Play Slay,
CJ got snubbed too.
Yeah,
No, he was
that
hurt,
was very well. The thing with him and Goddard, both him and Goddard, was guys who were on IR you couldn't vote for. It's some weird thing there, but because they were on injured reserve during the crux of the voting period, they couldn't be selected. So that's a whole other topic. Nonetheless, though, if you don't have those guys holding things down on the back end, it's not going to matter what pass rush you have. Okay, they're going to be able to find the receiver, get the ball to. So it's worked in tandem so well this season here. But kudos to Jonathan Gannon. Look, I mean, every metric you can imagine, this team has been top 5, top 10 unit across the board, complementing an outstanding offensive attack. I mean, that's why Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon are dealing with all these.
How do you feel about Gannon though? Because the Eagles Nation still hating on him.
Man, they can hate him all they want. The guy's produced and is, like I said, it's like, what more could you ask for? The defense had 70 sacks. The defense was tied for 4th in takeaways. The defense was, first in passing yards allowed. It's,
What do you think they say it's the players?
It's both. It's both. I mean, obviously, yeah. Do you need talent? But I think this is where Harry Roseman and his crew come in, and they say, look, Jonathan Gannon in year 1 didn't have the horses. He didn't have the pass rushers. They got him Hassan Red. Okay, look at the secondary. They got him a C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They gave him all the tools, but Jonathan Gannon was able to do what he did with those guys. If this defense was bottom half of the league, bottom quarter of the league in all these categories,
like middle of the pack with that talent.
Yeah, if you were middle of the pack, obviously yes, you can. There's fair reason for criticism, but the fact of the matter is that this defense, by and large, in every metric you can throw out there, was one of the best in the league all season long from start to finish. It's kudos to Howard Roseman, because you need players. It takes players in this league, but you need a coach, and we've seen this with other teams where you can have talented guys, but they don't have the orchestrator, the coordinator to put them in the right situation. It goes back to what I said about the pass rush. You can have a great front, but if you don't have the guys on the back end or vice versa, it's not going to work. It takes a complete team effort. So, again, it's no surprise that what Jonathan Gannon's been able to do with the talent that he's had.
Eagles begged for years for a 1,000-yard receiver. How special is it that we got 2?
We get 2. Yeah, I mean, look, that's because as great as A.J. Brown is, Devontae Smith is that dude as well. His route running, it's a clinic each and every week. His body control, his hands, his sideline awareness. It's just so much fun to watch these guys develop and grow together. And they both have the mentality that it's a blue collar. Usually, wide receiver used to be the diva position, so to speak, and probably maybe still is to an extent. It's all the flash and the glitz and the glamour. These guys are blue collar guys. These guys are hungry to get better. These guys play tough. They play physical. I mean, one of my favorite play. I can't exactly remember the game right now, but it was Devontae blocked for a Miles Sanders touchdown like early in the season, and once he knew that Miles was sprung free, you saw Devontae getting fist palms and getting juice. Like that got him as excited as scoring a touchdown. Okay, that's what you love to see. And look, the guy's 6 foot, 170 pounds, and you're like, oh, is this guy going to hold up? That hasn't been a question whatsoever with him. Defenders can't get a hand on him. He's just so self-aware, such a smart player. Football IQ is through the charts, and the guy's just all business. The guy, this is what he wants to be. He wants to be a great wide receiver. He's committed, and both he and A.J. Brown, these guys are just committed. They just want to be the best at their craft, and it's great that they are able to learn from each other, to be teammates, and again, both extremely young. With Jalen, hopefully you'll be
out. Like none of our offense primed out. Jalen's not prime. He's only 24.
No, that's what I mean.
You're like AJ, Mitty, Miles, like Goddard. Like none of these guys are in the prime of their career yet, and they're still like posting numbers as like being the best of their positions. What about this guy right here, Lane Johnson? How important is it that he plays this postseason?
I mean, the guy's an ultimate warrior, and he wants nothing more than to be out there for his teammates. I mean, I don't know the severity of the injury. I don't know what kind of pain it causes, how discomforting it is. He's talked about how he'd rather deal with this than the ankle injury that's hampered him in the past, but he's coming off an all-pro season. He didn't give up a sack. He didn't give up a quarterback hit.
Two
You know,
years.
he's the cream of the crop. He's the best in class. It's like him and Tristan Wirfs are the elite of the elites at the right tackle position. When Nick Sirianni takes this job, you're able to retaining Jeff Stoutland was such a huge achievement. But having these guys already in house, guys who have been there, that have won, that have been through the battles, it's just they bring the right mentality to this game. They're right for the city. We're watching when you watch like a Lane Johnson, you're watching Jason Kelsey, you're watching two of the greatest of this generation. You're watching, potential
Right.
Hall of Famers at the top of their game, and it's one of those things where like, the early years when I was working with a team, and you would see like Brian Dawkins at practice, and you'd want to just like almost savor like this is like one of the all-time greatest. Okay, one of the all-time great Philadelphia Eagles, but just one of the all-time greats who transformed his position. Like you're watching these guys on a day in day out basis, and it's at times you have to like pinch yourself to be like, this is what excellence looked like. This is excellence epitomized, and you're seeing that, and you've seen it for several years. With Lane Johnson, the biggest thing has just been for him, has he been able to remain healthy. He's going to be battling through this injury, but he wants to be out there with the guys. He knows, going back to how special an opportunity this is. Lane Johnson's been here since 2013.
Yeah.
He's had a couple playoff runs, but he didn't win a playoff game until, doing the math here, like his fifth season. They make the Super Bowl run. He's getting up there in age. Okay, this is the offensive line is getting older, it's aging. They realize these opportunities don't come very often, and they want to make the most out of it.
The fans think there's some fans think we can't do it without Lane. Do you think we can still do it? Even say, knock on wood, say Lane does get re-injured that thing. You think the Eagles still pull it out this year?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Jack Driscoll has subbed in and played. It's going to be a tough battle. You're going against an outstanding Giants defensive line. Kayvon Thibodeau has come on strong in the second half of the season. The interior of that line, I mean, really, it's the interior guys that you really are concerned about. The one guy who doesn't seem like he's going to play, or if he plays, he'll be limited, is Ojulari, the gifted pass rusher from Georgia, who gave Jordan Mailata all he could handle in that Week 14 showdown. It was very good. But Jack Driscoll has played valuable reps, and the beauty of situations like that, the silver lining is you can find out if guys are able to step up to the task if they have to be. So Jack Driscoll, he has the coach's trust if that's the direction they want to go. I mean, look, they could have easily had said late in the season, we can move Mailata to right tackle. Put Dillon at left tackle. But that's
played good on that right side. He ain't played good on that right side.
No, you're talking about Dillard?
I'm talking about Mailata. He wasn't on the right side. He wasn't as good as he is on the left side.
No, but I'm saying that was, something that was, discussed about and, was a potential option. No, but they had a solid option in Jack Driscoll. As Jack Driscoll, Lane Johnson, there are very few players of that caliber in the entire league. So obviously you love to have your best of the best out there. But I mean, if something were to happen, that's why it's so important that guys like Driscoll got those reps early on. So in the season, and he's had them over the last couple of seasons. So to be ready for a potential moment like that he could be called upon. And the Eagles know that they can still get the job done.
Where does Jalen Hurts rank on this picture?
I would say Donovan to me is the best quarterback in franchise history, and McNabb. No, to me it's not even a question. Okay, to me with the playoff success he had, the longevity. I think Randall certainly changed the game. Okay, and maybe Randall was too early for his era. But Randall obviously just such a Randall is the guy who brought, and it's same with Donovan. It's a lot of guys, depending on what generation you are, how old you are. These are the guys who you grew up watching, who helped made you an Eagles fan. So I mean, Donovan McNabb came at a time when the Eagles were at the lowest of the lows in quite some time. They were trying to get things from the rubble. They didn't have the best training facilities. They didn't have a whole lot going for them, not a lot of success. And Donovan got them to 5 conference championships, a Super Bowl appearance, that sustained success. I mean, you think about it, Donovan's last deep playoff run was 2008. Gets them back to the playoffs in 2009. He leaves. Well, the Eagles didn't win a playoff game until the Super Bowl run. Okay? They won a couple of division titles and they made the playoffs, but from 2008 to 2017, they didn't won a playoff game. I think that just shows how good Donovan McNabb was during his time. So Donovan McNabb is the cream of the crop. Michael Vick had an outstanding 2010 season, and he also did some good things early on in 2013. But we'll see what Jalen. Jalen is young. He's ascending. He's already done some historic things. First player in NFL history with 10. First quarterback in NFL history with 10 rushing touchdowns in back-to-back seasons. Second youngest quarterback to win 14 games in a season. 14-1 as a starter. I mean, it's just absurd. Those types of numbers. That guys like, Michael Vick put up in his prime, that Donovan put up in his prime, that Randall put up in his prime. The key for Jalen is the consistency and the longevity. And the next step, starting with Saturday, is can he win in the playoffs? Yeah. You look at what Donovan did in the playoffs. You looked at he was able to get the team to the Super Bowl. It's not easy. We were taking it for granted when we were, every year getting the first round bye, winning the division, and getting all the way to the NFC Championship game. It was like, okay, it was almost, if you're an Eagles fan, call me when the NFC Championship game is on, because we've been here before. We need to get to the next step. So the key for Jalen now is winning in the postseason and then having a consistent level of success. It's great to do it the 1 year. Okay, it's great to show this promise, have this MVP type season. I mean, that's what Donovan in his second season. You could say this is Jalen's second season as a starter. Donovan McNabb, he took the league by storm in that 2000 season, turned the game upside its head. So that's really what we're waiting to see now for Jalen, is how does he perform in the postseason, and does he sustain that success over a long period of time? And hopefully, fingers crossed, he certainly
before
does.
You can grade him, before you can really put him in that situation, a lot of people want to see what he's going to do in the playoffs.
Of course, and we all are. That's the next step here.
It was the playoffs. Before they crown him, before they give him his love. The full love that I feel like he should deserve, what I'm saying? Like, Jalen is right there. Do you think this is like the first chapter in the book of Jalen? You know what I'm saying? Like, if he goes through and he does what we believe as Eagle fans he will do, and that's bringing another Lombardi back home, does that put him in the upper echelons of Eagle quarterbacks of all time?
I mean, of course. I mean,
you still need years after that. You still need like another year. You need to do it again next year. Then you need to do it again. You know what I'm saying? Like, because he done broke so many records in his first 2 years. Individual records. Like, would that Super Bowl really cement him in there, or do you think that you're still gonna have to see more?
I mean, it's only happened once this is what, Super Bowl 57, and only one has been won by an Eagle. I think we're in like two different stratospheres here. So I can't wait to see what he's going to do in the playoffs, and I certainly hope that he can bring the parade down Broad Street here in his second year in the playoffs. And I think what you see, you can look at some of the great quarterbacks. Things don't always go well in the first playoff go around, and it was a learning experience for Jalen last season. But again, I think it was so huge for him that even though it was a team that just squeaked on by to get into the playoffs and rallied from that 2-5 start, it was so important for him, Coach Sirianni, the whole team, just to get a taste of the playoffs, to see what it's like. And hearing what guys like Devontae Smith said like today, it's like, all right, we got to sample it, now we're hungry for more. And adding guys like not just an AJ Brown for the talent that he has, an AJ Brown who has been through some of these playoff battles, who's been on teams that had the bye weeks, that have been so close but not able to get over that precipice of being able to get to the Super Bowl. And it's like they all have something to chase here.
Yeah, and even like Limbaugh Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, people don't realize they came to this team for that reason. You know what I'm saying? They don't have to be week in, week out stars. But I feel like when there's only 3 games left, we're about to see the best of Suh and Limbaugh Joseph. They're trying to chase that ring as well.
Yeah, I mean that's why Kelsey came back. Jason. We all at the end of last season, again, we saw what Coach Sirianni could do. We saw the team rally to make the playoffs. But I think we're still wondering, what would Jalen Hurts be? What is his potential? What's his ceiling as a quarterback? Jason Kelsey could have retired. He could have said, I don't know. I have questions about him. I don't know if he's going to be the guy. I'm not going to come back for another year. He signed on to come back because he believed that this team could make a run. That right there, obviously, yeah, Suh came on, Linval Joseph came on as this team was already ascending. We're talking about February and March when, Jason Kelsey doesn't know all this and decides, I want to make another run. I think we got something here. Jason Kelsey, I don't think is coming back for a rebuild. I don't think he's coming back for a team that probably he would project to only win a handful of games and not make any noise. He came back because he thought that this team was taking the right step and could do something big.
Eagles win this game against the Giants this week. Yes or no?
Come on, BJ.
Let's go. Yes or no? You think so?
BJ, are we serious? Like, you're seriously asking? Could they? Yeah, of course. I think they're going to win. I mean, to me, it's look, they've been the best team all season long. Okay, you've got the MVP at quarterback. You've got a team well rested coming out the bye week. Sirianni has pushed the right buttons all season long. You look at all the key matchups. Look, the Giants were phenomenal last week against the Vikings. It's going to be I think it's going to be a tough, hard-fought showdown. I don't think it's going to be an easy game to win by any stretch of the imagination. But I don't see. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, if the Eagles were to lose, it's like, okay, it's probably because they were probably sloppy with the football. Okay, it's probably they didn't, contain Daniel Jones. But they have all the pieces in place to be able to do that. When you look at the offense, even if Jalen were not to be 100%, you still have AJ, Devontae, you have Dallas Scott, you have Miles Sanders, you've got the offensive line intact. I mean, the thing, again, the beauty is they had last week to rest and be able to work on some of the schematic tweaks they need to make, to do some of the self-scouting, to figure out, okay, what tendencies were we showing that were kind of hurting us late in the season. The Giants have been kind of almost in playoff mode outside of the week where they were able to rest the starters in week 18 against us. But, they're probably feeling good. They're on a high coming off their best performance of the season against Minnesota, but again, this is a much tougher, much deeper, much better coached Eagles team that's going to await them at the Link on Saturday night.
Nice. That last one for you. You see the remaining teams. I know we know Dallas. Let's just go against San Francisco, but Eagles win, Super Bowl. What would be the better matchup? You think Eagles versus Andy Reid, that storyline. Andy Reid been beating our butts since he went to Kansas City. Wouldn't it be awesome to beat him in the Super Bowl? Dougie P, the only Eagles coach to win a Super Bowl with our organization, to go against him in the Super Bowl, or the Bills or the Bengals. Like, who would you rather play? You think would be more exciting, more want-to-watch game out of those AFC teams?
I mean, look, to me, I think you start with Chiefs. You start Eagles Chiefs there, and you got the Andy Reid storyline, of course, and of course two of the best quarterbacks in the game this season. I think also you look at Eagles Bills. I think a lot of people thought at the beginning of the season with the way they played, they probably should have won it all last season. This is their window. They've got obviously a lot of emotions with what they've dealt with in the last month with the DeMar Hamlin situation. trying to ride things through. So, and that's also, of course, another Eagles tie there. And I think those two fan bases duking it out would be pretty fascinating as well. So I think the biggest thing is just for the Eagles to get there. And once you get there, you just got to win that one game. But, it's
who do you rather play for Chris McPherson's dream Super Bowl?
I don't care. I don't care. I just want to get there.
Like WB's not up there. Like you don't think? Do you think the Jacks couldn't make it to the Super Bowl?
Look. I would tell you, I was cheering like all hell on Saturday night, watching them with that comeback. It was one of those things where it's like 27-0, and I'm like, I should turn this game off. But I'm like, all right, Jacksonville got the touchdown right before halftime. Let's see what they do at halftime. Oh, they get a stop on defense. Oh, they score. I'm like, all right, I got to see this thing through. And it was just so great to see. So great to see what Doug has done with that team in one season. It's a situation where they obviously had some pieces, but just obviously the coaching situation with Meyer the year before. Just it's great that they got a veteran coach who could come in with his credentials to be able to pull that team together. And you got to build a strong culture that doesn't fall apart when you trail 27-0 in a playoff game. The way that they had to come back, they had to fight back the week before against the Titans to get in, to get the win there on Saturday. The third biggest come from behind playoff win in NFL history is sensational. It's just a tip of the cap. Phenomenal job that he's done getting that team turned around in just 1 year. So, but.
Hey, thanks again, Chris. I know I dragged you a little bit over, but I love talking football with you, my guy. I can do it all night, But
certainly can, man.
Man, go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you at and where they can, reach you on your social media platforms.
Yeah, big thing. Just download the app. Again, a lot of sensational content that's going to be coming on especially next 24 hours or so. I know everyone's waiting for the playoff hype video to drop. That's going to be coming soon. So that's going to be huge. So again, people, it's a Philly thing. We're going to be carrying that through and hopefully carrying that.
You got Twitter on too. You got Twitter. I didn't give me one.
So, but no, we just appreciate all the support, man, and just can't wait to see the link get loud on Saturday night. It's going to be electric.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you guys for tuning in with us. Another great episode with my boy Chris. Man, awesome. I love working with you. Like I said, anytime you free, I'm going to get at you. Fly Eagles fly. Make sure you guys know this is that special year. I told you guys from the start. I told you 14-3. 14-3. I told you Jalen Hurts will be MVP. He's the MVP candidate, barring injuries that could have swayed the ballot towards Patty Mahomes. But whatever with that. But now it's playoff time. It's time for us to really support our team, back our team 100%. And the Eagles will fly high this playoffs. I'm telling you that. So be on the lookout for the Eagles beating the Giants this week. And let's take this special road. And hopefully we'll all be at the parade in Philly after the Super Bowl, man. Thanks again, Chris, for stopping by. Fly, Eagles fly, and we out.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.